Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We are ready for another Friday afternoon teacher talks here at BirdBrain. My name's Kelsey Derringer. I am the Professional Development Coordinator for BirdBrain, which means that I specialize in working with teachers, teaching teachers how to do coding, how to do robotics, and how to bring those things into the classroom. But I'm not here by myself. There's somebody else here in the studio with me. This is Matt. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty well.
That is great. And Matt is going to be live checking Facebook for us today. Right, Matt?
Yeah, that's right. So any questions that are going to be coming in from Facebook, I will be monitoring them and bringing them to Kelsey.
That's right. So Matt is going to be looking in on Facebook. If there's anybody out there in Facebook land and you want to shout out or you have a question or something you'd like to contribute, we can bring that in live through Matt the Robot. But it's not just me and Matt here on this call today. We've got a whole gallery of teachers. Does everybody want to wave hello? Hello. We have teachers in all different stages of their teaching careers. I know Dagny, you just graduated last weekend. Can we give a round of applause for Dagny graduating? Woo! Shout out to Iowa State. So we've got some teachers, you know, just graduating, although Dagny has lots of teaching experience already, and teachers that have been teaching computer science for a long time, teachers who are have been teaching for a long time, haven't been doing computer science for that long, and I know Mike is here as well, and Mike is, I believe, a parent who is at home teaching, doing that perhaps for the first time. So I'd love to just start out with a question that Regina brought up as we were talking before we started. Normally in the school day, when the kids leave, the day is done. We did it, kind of. I mean, there's always something else to do after the day is done, right? But Regina observed that during this distance learning phase, she doesn't turn off. Like, she's kind of always plugged in. So I wonder, just kind of by nod of heads, how many of you guys are feeling that as well, that in this distance learning space, it's harder to unplug? Yeah. Has anybody successfully unplugged for a day or a weekend or a couple hours? And if so, what did you do? Yeah. How about you, Sam?
I think that it's really important to give yourself the time and space to either do something creative that you enjoy doing that gives you something else to think about. So there's my doorbell. So yeah, having that freedom to explore and learn something new or make something that you're interested in, that is not necessarily related to what you're teaching. It's just something that you like to do.
So for you, getting unplugged is definitely about spending creative energies on something other than your students, which they deserve our creative energies, but not all of our creative energies. That's really good advice, Sam. How about anybody else? Would anyone else like to speak to their experience of being very plugged in or very unplugged right now? Have you been getting crazy things from students at all hours? Yeah, Eileen's got a big nod of the head on that one. Or have you been, like, you feel like you've been working more during this distance learning time? Yeah, I know I have been. We've been jumping through all the things here at BirdBrain. Well, I'm really glad that you guys are spending time with us today, and I hope that we can speak to some of your needs and and make some things a little bit easier. We have another special guest with us today, Tom Lauwers, who is the founder, CEO, and big brain behind BirdBrain. Tom has a few updates. We thought we would spend today kind of talking about best practices, teaching coding and robotics remotely. And Tom has made some updates to NetsBlocks, which is one way to teach coding and robotics remotely. So Tom, we thought we could let you start off and just let us know what's new with NetsBlocks.
Okay, yeah. So since I was last on, which was I think 3 weeks ago, I know there were quite a few people asking for updates to NetsBlocks to make it work with both the Hummingbird Duo, make it work with Chromebooks, make it work with sensors. And so the good news is that all of those things are now true. So if you wanted to create a robot using NetsBlocks, which is again like it's a system for programming robots remotely that uses where you send a link to a program to the students and then they can just program it directly from there. It's what's running our remote robots on the remote robots page. So if you wanted to make one of those with a Hummingbird Duo, you can now do that. If you wanted to use a Chromebook instead of a Windows or a Mac laptop to run the robot, you can now do that. The only thing we couldn't get working is the combination. So a Chromebook with a Hummingbird Duo right now is still not possible. I'm not exactly sure why, but I figured that was a pretty rare combination anyway. To be clear, your students can use any device to program the robots. So this is just about programming. It's just about the robot. It's just about the computer that is connected to the robot at your house.
While we're over here,
Your students can use, you know, an iPad, an Android tablet, whatever they want, whatever they have available. We do recommend they run the link that you send them in either Chrome or Firefox. So those are updates on like to kind of expand the number of people who can make remote robots. The other thing I updated was the ability to read sensors. And I want to do a very quick demo of that because this was pretty much a very requested feature.
For just a moment though, Tom, I just want to point out something that you highlighted that is something that NetsBlocks can do that like doing Zoom remote coding with say like Snap or something like that can't do. We have found that students who are on Chromebooks cannot remote control your computer as a teacher. That is not an option. So if your students have Chromebooks at home, NetsBlocks is a way for them, they who have Chromebooks, to control your robots that using Zoom remote control, we found we can't do. So that is an advantage that we didn't know a couple weeks ago because we're still exploring this stuff that we didn't know back then, but that is an advantage of NetsBlocks. So thanks, Tom. Tell us about sensors.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen to show you this.
Perfect.
So here we go. So the updates to these projects are already in the Make Your Own Remote Robot tutorial. So if you want to, for example, if you want to use a Hummingbird Duo, you would just follow the instructions in the video or in the written instructions, but you would use the server project for Hummingbird Duo or original Hummingbird. If you want to use sensors now and you had already made a remote robot, if you click on these links again, like server project for Hummingbird Bit, client project for Hummingbird Bit, those now have the sensor capability added into them. So you will have to remake your projects, but you'll be able to use sensors going forward. So just to show you how that works, I have my little bot, which I guess I need to show you by stopping the share. So very simple robot, you know, just 2 servos, and I've added a distance sensor. So it's about as simple as it can get. And it's running off a MicroBit Hummingbird bit. So if I connect to this now, let's see. Okay, so it's connected. You can see that it's connected as a reminder because it's doing the X on the MicroBit. Let me go back to sharing my screen. So this is, you know, my sample code for people to program this robot. So, you know, you have the 1C keys pressed to connect to the robot, and then some potential sample code. And one of the sample codes that I've put in here is a forever loop that moves position servo 2 based on the Hummingbird distance sensor. So what that's going to do is it's going to basically pan the robot based on the distance sensor. I can also click on the distance sensor block here to see what that value is. So right now it's reading 186 centimeters, 172 centimeters. If I put my hand near it, now it's reading 20 or 15 or 12. You guys are just gonna have to believe that I'm putting my hand in front of it. So let me run this program and stop sharing it. Okay, so this is now running remotely. So if I put my hand in front of it, it kind of moves that way. If I move, it tilts back. So it's just, it's very simple. It's panning and tilting based on what it sees. The sensors here are running, like, the data is getting sent about once every 2/3 of a second. So, 3 sensor readings every 2 seconds. And there's a lag of about a second as well. So the sensor data seems to be delayed by about a second. But that's fast enough, frankly, to do this kind of thing. One of the things I've realized after making this is that I now have an Internet of Things object. So you could now, for example, use a Hummingbird, put in a light sensor, put in, like, there are ways to add things like humidity sensors, air pressure sensors from other vendors, but you could make like a weather station. You could make a lot of things now out of a Hummingbird that's just sitting here connected and then just sending information to whoever wants to connect at some later time.
And I think that that's really relevant and important. I know I personally have been asked to teach an Internet of Things class before with a local group here in Pittsburgh. And I was like, we can use the MicroBit radio frequency to kind of simulate an Internet of Things. We can make a smart home project where all the rooms talk to each other, but it's not actually the Internet of Things because it's not using the internet, okay? Like, I had to stress that, like, this is a metaphor, okay? But now with adding sensors to a NetsBlocks project, it really is an Internet of Things. So if anybody's interested in manufacturing or things like that, if you're interested in how robotics and coding enter into like the workplace, the Internet of Things is like an industry 4.0, and like those are sort of like hot topics right now. Integrating those into a curriculum in an authentic way, Hummingbird can do that now, which is like really, really cool. It's really exciting.
Yeah. So it's you can definitely talk about it as an Internet of Things project now.
So for our main updates, we've got, it can do Duo now, or original Hummingbird, which is really cool. It can do sensors now, which is really cool. Any other updates for NetsBlocks or any other things you want to point out about it?
I think that's just about it. Yeah, if anybody has questions or like trying to figure out how to update it, definitely feel free to email me at tom@birdbraintechnologies.com. But hopefully this update, allows more of you to build remote robots and allows you to, or your students to use sensor data. I think that's going to be, it is a really exciting addition. So I'm glad I was able to get it in.
We had a couple comments and stuff coming in from Facebook as well. What are people saying, Matt?
Well, Tanya is also agreeing that she works a lot more. She's very excited that we've got some updates to NetsBlocks. And then here in the Zoom room, Sam said that you could really expand some of the creative options. And I think we all agree with that.
Yeah. So let me check in with the teachers here on Zoom. So where are you guys at in, teaching computer science, teaching remotely? Has anybody tried NetsBlocks, or has anybody tried teaching other computer science or robotics things remotely? I'd just love to hear about your experiences with this so far. Anybody want to share? Yeah, Erin, let's come to you. I know you have something pretty nifty to show off too. Tell us what's up.
So I have 3 robots set up. Here, let me see if I can swap my camera and show my setup here. You guys see my robot. So those are my 3 robots, and I named them accordingly. So you have QuakerBot, BelvitaBot, and NutriBot based on their box type. And so I have 3 students set up per robot, and their assignment was to use the NetsBlocks remote coding, and they had to create a dance party scene. And so I found a song for them to use, and they had to sort of create a dance party to go along with the beat of the song. Here's an example of one of the students' code. They just finished this. Some of them are still working on it. I don't know if this is too blurry or not to see.
We can see it.
Yeah. So this is one student's code, I guess. So if you want me to, I can run it and show you what the robot does.
Heck yeah, that is some of the longest code I've seen in a hot minute. I need to see this dance
Yeah,
party.
and this is about a 2 week. I guess I started this about 2 weeks ago.
This is fantastic. Really, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. I think anyone should feel free to unmute themselves and just give a woo woo.
Woo woo!
And
So that's an example. I think it's about 1.5 minutes long. I won't do the whole thing of it, but so you see it's got the LEDs, it's got a servo on top, the positional servo on top, and it's got a rotational motor on the side. This was done by 7th and 8th grade students. I think someone had asked that question in the chat there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've been doing with my students. And then let me swap my camera back here. This week I started working with the sensors, but that has to be done more in a live setting. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually setting up appointments next week with the students individually to work with them doing their sensors, since it requires me to actually physically do something to the robot to get it to actually sense the light or the distance or whatnot.
Oh, go ahead, Tom. Let's go back to gallery view for just a moment.
Yeah, so are you, do you have like a webcam that you're just streaming that?
Yeah, so what I ended up doing was I was able to get into work and steal a webcam, and YouTube allows you to stream up to 12 hours at a time with a webcam. So each day what I do is I start a new live feed, I email the live feed to the students. So every morning by 8:30, I usually try and get these up and running. So they have the link to the YouTube. I create a link, but it's unlisted, so it's not a public link. I mute my audio though, because it's in the same place as my work and I don't need them hearing my conversation. So I mute the audio. And it's always fun though when I'm sitting here working and I see a robot start moving. It's kind of fun to see. So, but I try and leave it on till through the evening. Sometimes my internet will cut out and I'll have to like restart a stream or something. But it's been, I would say, pretty successful. I've had a few students have had to reach out and had some connection issues, but for the most part, they enjoyed, I think, working on it asynchronously at their own pace.
That's a great kind of in-between hack. I had ruled that out because I was trying to put the robots on like 24/7, truly 24/7. So I had ruled out YouTube for that reason. But yeah, I mean, you can start it in the morning and just leave it running, and that works perfectly well for a school day. So I will, I'm going to update my tutorial to add that as a setup.
All right, yeah,
Free,
go ahead.
I had to pay for the Nest cams, so.
Yeah, well, when I saw that, I was like, well, I don't have that. I have these other cameras at home, but I couldn't find a way to do it. And then I came across the YouTube, and I was like, well, if I have to send it every day, I'll send it every day, and that way they're not running all the time anyway. So.
And the Nest Cam has like a 10 to 15 second lag built into it directly. What's the lag like on YouTube Live? Is it pretty instantaneous?
No, there was still, I don't think it's 15 seconds. It's probably more in between like 5 to 10 seconds, but there's still a little bit of a lag. So the tricky part with students with this assignment was they had to figure out a way, because the audio doesn't get sent through, right? They had to play the audio on their own device and run the program through here. So there's like a delay. So what they figured out was if they had like an LED, like time the LED, so like on the third LED light, they play their song on their device to sync it up.
Like a countdown. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took a little bit of creativity in figuring that out. And some students figured it out on their own, and others, it took a little bit of discussion to figure out ways to do it. But that's part of the problem solving experience. So.
Yeah, so about the lag, unfortunately, we looked into that more, and there's no way to eliminate lag in like that kind of a live stream. It's just the way that the video stream has to get packaged to a server and then distributed. The advantage is you can have hundreds of thousands of people watch it at the same time, but the disadvantage is it's always going to have at least a 5-second delay and more like 10 to 15.
Yeah.
That's just yeah, I was hoping in the early days that I could get around it somehow, but doesn't seem to be a way around it.
We had a question come in from Facebook. What was the question, Matt?
Yeah, this is from Tanya. She says she wants her students to be able to watch the robot while it's being programmed. And is there any recommendations for a good webcam?
What kind of webcams are you using, Erin?
I think mine is a Logitech. Let me look here. Yeah, it's a Logitech. I think you can get them anywhere. I can even show you real quick. It's a, this is the webcam.
Okay.
Great.
So like I said, it was what we had at my school. So I stole one off the one device and brought it home with me.
I mean, I think even the integrated webcam on the laptop, like you have to have a laptop running the robot anyway.
Yeah.
So you could even try just using that and having YouTube streaming from that laptop.
Yeah. The tricky part I had was I don't have the, I didn't have the Bluetooth dongle. So I literally have 3 laptops set up with the 3 different robots. And that was a little bit of a challenge too, because now I have 3 computers always running during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another tricky part if you don't have the Bluetooth. So I think the Bluetooth, you can do multiple setups. Am I correct on that, Tom?
Yeah, you can have up to 3 robots connected if you either have a MacBook, you don't need the Bluetooth dongle anymore, or on Windows, you need it. And Chromebooks, you need 1 Chromebook for every robot. That's kind of where we are with Chromebooks right now.
That's so exciting, Erin. I'm so excited that you not only got it to work, hooray, which of course you would because it totally works, but also that you like have been using it with students and that they've been programming it and changing it. I think because we're limited to an hour, oftentimes in our webinars, we're limited to an hour and we don't know who's going to show up and we don't know if we're ever going to see them again. That really limits like what you can do with kids, you know, when it's just sort of a drop-in class. But because you have a consistent group of kids, they were able to work on this a few times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing the code that they built is really phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I also love that like the design challenge of like, you've got to get it to sync up to music, but you can't hear music here. How will you sync it up? Like that is a design challenge. And like, I think that sometimes when teachers see something really open-ended like this, they're like, well, I've got to solve this, 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 and this. And it's like, actually, you've only got to solve this. The rest of it, you can ask them to figure that out and they will rise to that occasion, you know, and have fun doing it. So can we all in gallery view just give Erin just a round of applause? Because way to go, Erin. That's awesome. Has anybody else been doing some teaching of coding or remote learning with robotics? Has anybody else tried any of that? I know that Eileen has been working on some coding things with Finch, but you haven't been working with students with that yet, right? No, okay. She's been working with some awesome awesome challenges with Finch. We'll have to talk about those. We're gonna have a Finch webinar coming up in a little bit. Looks like we had a couple more comments come in from the Zoom chat. What else do people have to say there, Matt? Or I guess this was Sam. Do you want to just say it out loud, Sam? Since you're here.
Sure. I was just saying, you know, it's great that Erin saw this problem of teaching computer science and doing remote coding. You know, it's hard enough to do remote learning, but to program robots and remotely, that's a whole nother thing, a whole nother level of challenges that arise. So that's, you know, hats off to you. That's really awesome. This
is the team though, you know, like people who are showing up here, like these are the people that are doing things that like we're the cutting edge, right? You guys are trying things that nobody else has tried and finding solutions that nobody else has thought of. And I'm just so excited about it. Sarah, you typed in the chat that you are also going to have students do some remote coding. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're working on, how you're going to do it?
Sure. I just have one Hummingbird Kit at home that I bought myself for my birthday. And so I just built the robot. It just takes me a long time because we're teaching we're live teaching. So I needed time to be able to build it. So we're gonna, I just finished, and then they're gonna code it this coming week. So not now, but next week, starting Monday. So I can't wait.
Exciting. What is your robot? What's it of? Unless you want to keep it a secret.
No, it's a giraffe. I was trying to use stuff I had around the house. So I let the boxes speak to me. So it's a giraffe because I had a long, tall box. And I don't know why, but I had some giraffe paper. So just trying to clean out too.
Let your boxes speak to you. I think that is just good advice. Yeah. My box speaks to me all the time. That's great. Oh, Sam, it looks like you've been building a robot as well. We've got to take a look at this. What is that? What did you make?
Can I unmute? Yeah.
Yeah, you're unmuted. You're good.
All right. So we all need a reason to smile during this time, especially. And I love the movie Up. And so I decided to make a robot with all my favorite Up characters. So using the mechanisms that BirdBrain has on the website. So this right here is actually a crank that is Doug's famous line where he says, "Hi there, my name is Doug." And sorry, I put it on wrong.
Good.
But he says, "Hi there, my name is Doug. I have just met you and I love you." And so that's with the position servo. And then if you come over here,
I see a button there. Your audio just cut out though, Sam. Not sure why.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
There you go.
So the front door, it opens, and it's actually a crank. So if you look at the back, there's a little.
Whenever you put your robot up to your computer, it covers your microphone. I'm sorry.
But yeah, if you haven't made, I had never made a crank before, but there's a great clip on the BirdBrain site, quick tutorial how to make a crank. So there's a crank that opens the door for Mr. Fredrickson and closes it back and forth. And then on the top here, you know, one way that Mr. Fredrickson would get rid of Doug before he learned to love Doug was he would throw the tennis ball. And so there's a little, if you look closely, there's a little sound sensor. And when the sound sensor picks up the sound of Mr. Fredrickson opening the door, it makes this rotation server turn. And the ball's spinning like it's being thrown by Mr. Fredrickson, and Doug's going to go run and catch it. And then finally, my favorite, you've got
Kevin the bird.
and there's a pressure sensor, and you press it, it makes.
And your audio got real quiet again, Sam. Sorry.
When you,
there you go.
when you press the pressure sensor above, it makes Kevin turn and eat chocolate from Russell. And then of course there's the big up balloon, all kinds of LEDs, because like Aaron's project, make everything better. I wanted to make something that would make me smile and that would make other people smile, and so I was like, well, it's got to be Up.
Have you got it all working yet?
Yeah, I posted on Twitter.
Okay.
When I tagged BirdBrain, because, you know, with the crank and the winch and the position servos and the rotation servos, the sound sensor and the distance sensor, those are all BirdBrain components. And I got the ideas from the tutorials, so I wanted to give you all credit for that.
Well, let's go to gallery view here, and I think that deserves a round of applause. What do you guys think? That is a really fun project, Sam. And it's also really fun seeing you practice what you preach about, like spend some time doing something that brings you personally creative joy. That's great. We have a number of questions that are coming in, both on Zoom and on Facebook. And I'll go over to you, Matt. Which one should we address first?
Sure. Well, we'll go ahead and look at Helen's comment from Facebook.
Okay.
So she's been sharing her BirdBrain remote coding links with her students during their Flexible Fridays, since she hasn't had time to build any robots yet. So she's using the robots that are in Tom's office right now. So I imagine on Fridays, Tom, West Coast time, around noon, you're probably getting a lot of robot action in your
probably happen. So that's actually a really good idea of I know Helen had reached out to us to ask like, hey, can I schedule some time to play with these robots? And like it's not hard to do. Like we'll kick whoever's on there off and let your students log on, you know. So if you want to have this be something that you do with your class, you can log on to that remote robots page. If you haven't had a chance to build or you're not able to build them yourself, you can use our remote robots page as something to do with your class. So that's really cool, Helen. We're really excited for what you're doing. There's a few more comments as well, right, Matt?
Yeah, we do. Greg was commenting on how great your project was, Sam. So thank you very much.
Woo woo.
And Tanya has a garden project that they set up with the BirdBrain Duo that now she could use with remote coding. So she's really excited about that. So yeah, gardens and remote coding. I feel like those go together.
I think they do. There's something that feels right about like plants, like making plants really engaging with some movement, like making a blooming flower or making some flowers light up with LEDs or something like that, and then letting kids interact with it remotely. There's something that feels great about that. There's some things that people have been asking in the Zoom window as well, and we'll just go to gallery view. Regina, you have a project you want to be working on with your students. Will you tell us about that a little bit? And kind of we'll pose some questions to the group. What's your project you want to be doing?
I just want to start small because I know, this is going to be challenging. And I'm just going to take like the little bot that we made a few weeks ago, and I still have to hook up the servos and the motors. Now I can do sensors as well. And then my access to my students is through Google Meet. We're not allowed to use Zoom. So I'm hoping that they can do the remote coding with the NetsBlock, similar to what you did on the webinars with the students on there.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. If you're using, that's a question we've gotten from a few teachers of like, hey, my district or my, X will not allow us to use Zoom. Can you do this on Google Meet? Yeah. NetsBlocks you can do on Google Meet, and MicroBit Classroom you can do on Google Meet as well, because it doesn't require any of the like parts of the video conferencing software. So Zoom remote control requires Zoom. I don't know if Google Meet has that feature or not. I'm not sure. But you can definitely do NetsBlocks, and you can do MicroBit Classroom with that as well. So you're gonna turn your non-robotic little bot into a robotic little bot, and you're gonna give your students control.
Yes.
Fun. That sounds really, really fun. You're gonna be great. Can we all give Regina some encouragement? Yeah, you can do it. There's a couple other. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Tom, I did buy the Bluetooth dongle that you recommended a few weeks ago because I'll be running this off my PC. So
yep. If you want to do it with NetsBlocks, we recommend that Bluetooth dongle so that you can connect up to 3 robots at once, and you're a little bit more mobile as well. If you're doing it with MicroBit Classroom, you just need a USB cord. We recommend like a long USB cord so that you can move around a little bit, but there's a USB cord that comes in the kit that you can use as well. And if you're using MicroBit Classroom, yeah, you can just you'll plug it in to program it, and then you can take it out, or keep it plugged in. And then when you want to upload different kids' code onto it, you just download another kid's code. And the thing about that is that they can all be working at the same time. You can send them some example code, and they can all be programming that on their own time. You can see their code changing, and when somebody's ready to go, they can say, "Hey, Miss N, can you download my code onto the robot?" Yep, we're gonna run Jeremy's code, so you can do kind of one kid's at a time. But you can something with MicroBit Classroom. You can see the kid's code. Every kid who's like in your classroom, you can see all their code when you want to. Versus in NetsBlocks, they're working on it in the background. They can all be working on it at the same time, but you can't see what they're doing. They have to describe it to you unless they share their screen. But when they share their screen, that makes certain things real tiny. So anyway, yeah. Mary Ann had a question of something that she wanted to do with her students. Can we spotlight Mary Ann? Do you want to tell us kind of what you were interested in doing with your students, and you were thinking about how the Hummingbird could help?
So I just gave my kids an assignment to like make a high five hand. And so I kind of wanted the hand to be able to wad up a piece of paper and throw it like in the trash, and to like give a peace sign, you know, a peace sign just to let me know that you're doing okay, kind of thing. So I didn't know if anybody had any ideas, just trying to make science come alive, you know, and the kids really are interested in robotics. So
yeah. Well, we have a couple of solutions for that, and we'll come back to gallery view or spotlight view, whichever. We have a very cool robotic hand project.
That's
really
cool.
Fun to do. This one is a really big robotic hand project.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
But I'll actually go to a close-up on this so you can see it a little bit better. Sometimes the middle finger bends backward, which is, you know, okay. But I'll head to, let's see if that one works. Yep, it does. There we go. So I'm going to refocus this one a little bit so you can see it. You got it? Oh, I've got a lav mic now. I'm mobile.
So cool.
So this robotic hand project right here is pretty great. It uses the cable mechanism, which is, I'll put a little bit more attention on this one. There we go. we gotta loosen the rubber bands back there a little bit, but it uses the cable mechanism, which is one of the mechanisms on our website. So there's some string that gets attached to the top of the finger here. The string goes down through some straws all the way down the side, and then it gets attached to, say, a popsicle stick on a motor, and as this motor turns, it pulls the stick, and that is what bends the finger, like so. Awesome. So it uses this cable mechanism, and then to help it spring back up, especially because cardboard after a while gets tired, on the back, these are rubber bands right there. Mm-hmm. And so we anchor the rubber bands with a, what is this, paper clip on one side, and then a paper clip down here on the other, which gives it that ability to spring back up, right? And so as the motor is turning and pulling this down, the string provides tension on one side, the rubber band provides tension on the other side, and you can make some really cool projects.
That's
Sometimes you have to use your rubber band though, which we'll have to do. Mm-hmm. But this hand project, there is actually a version of that on our BirdBrain project website. And so Matt is going to link that in the chat, and we're going to take a look at that in just a second here. I'll pull it up on our screen. But that robotic hand project, you could have one motor control each of the fingers, and you could do a peace sign, although it would probably be like that unless the thumb was always in, because there's only 4 motor ports on a Hummingbird. You could do things with radio control. You could control each finger individually, or if you wanted it to be able to scrunch all the fingers in, you could do that with one motor back here, and all of the strings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, could all be pulled by one motor like that, and so it could kind of pick things up. So this the link that we just posted in the chat is to that robotic hand project, and I'll just show you guys what we're talking about here. I'm going to play this video real quick so you can see it. This is a robotic hand project that is controlled with just one motor. So Bambi's controlling it with a light sensor. When she covers the light sensor, that's closing and opening the hand. But that robotic hand project is, so now she can grab a cup with it, let's say.
That's
she's like,
awesome.
Yeah. So all of them are bending in kind of at once with sort of this motion. Ta-da! There you go.
So would the kids have to go to your website to purchase the motor though? Because obviously they don't have the Hummingbird, right?
If they don't have the Hummingbird, they could make just the craft supply version, which when I used to do an after school program, that was one of the projects we did, was we called it our robot hand, but we didn't have servos or anything. It's just like that cable mechanism with straws, tape, and cardboard and string. So the basic, here we go, the basic cable mechanism here, like so, they could make this, right? And they could make this into a hand, and it wouldn't be robotic. Until they, got a Hummingbird or got a motor to power it. So they could do that, and you could make the robotic version for them to code.
to see. And there are some families that probably would want to purchase it because they would want to take their kids to the next level because of the area that I live in. I think they would support that actually. So that's why I asked if a family wanted to purchase that motor and take it to that level, they would just go to your website. Is that what would happen? Okay.
You can, people can purchase individual kits and we ship directly to everybody's houses. So yeah, that's easily done. And it looks like we had a couple more comments coming in. What do we got, Matt?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. Well, we do have a comment from Greg on Facebook, and he was just saying that he loves your hand idea, Marianne, and then he gave you his favorite hand gesture, which is the sign for love in sign language. So,
I love you, like that. This is Marianne's favorite hand gesture. That's great. And Sam, you commented in the Zoom chat that there's ways to make a robotic hand without a motor. Tell us your secrets. Tell us your ways.
Oh no, I just the way like you were talking about with string. So I've just seen that project before. That's kind of like on my maker to-do list. I definitely want to make a big hand with the motor, but because it just, you think about like those I miss sports right now, and those like giant like foam fingers. Number one. Yeah, that it's the same mechanism when, or same concept with the cables if you're using the straws and the strings. And those are like, I really been trying to post projects for my students that use common everyday objects. So if they don't have these mechanisms at home, they don't have the means to purchase them, they can still be making and creating and not feel like they're left out.
Yeah.
And like, I guess because of equitable access, if I made that hand, then could they program the hand and make it move based on what we're talking about today?
Yes.
Right?
Good. Yes.
So
they
then
can
that
make
would
their
be
own.
Everybody.
Exactly. That is exactly what we've been doing at our webinars the past couple weeks, because we haven't been able to rely on the fact that the kids at home have hummingbirds. So we have been making a non-robotic version of stuff here in the studio and taking kids through the process of making a winch or a cable mechanism or a little bot or something like that that works without robot parts. And then at the end of class, the last 20 minutes, we give them a chance to program the one that we have here in the studio.
Love it.
So if you're looking for examples of kind of how to flow that together, check out some of our webinars from the past like 5 weeks. We've been doing 2 a week for 5 weeks now. So there's lots of examples of how to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll look at that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's great. It looked like Matt really likes the idea of making a big foam finger into a robot. I think that sounds pretty cool too. And I know Sam has joined some of our maker-focused webinars too. You had just had some comments about that in the Zoom window. Do you want to speak to what your students have been making along with us too?
My students haven't been able to join those yet. It's been trouble. I teach at 8 schools, so it's been tricky to navigate all the different schedules and like when they have different Google Meets for different teachers and since I'm not their regular teacher, I'm their gifted education teacher. I'm only supposed to get like a certain portion of their time every week. But the students I've seen that have come to the BirdBrain webinars, I've just been really impressed with just their ability to communicate and to make. And like I said in the chat, they were assembling things more quickly and more readily. I was like, oh no, I'm not keeping up. I'm the one that's behind. Like Kelsey would be like, hey, show your projects, and I'd be like, oh wait, I'm not ready, like that. And they'd be like, here, I've got it right here. Look at this. So
it's brilliant, and you should be very intimidated. I'm 11.
Yeah, I'm intimidated by a 10-year-old.
Yeah, they're pretty intimidating because they're great at so many things. Yeah, that's really good feedback too, to just like, engaging kids in maker activities while they're at home, like, kind of showing them how a mechanism works or something like that, engaging them in some maker activities, and then doing a roboticized version of that in your space so that they can program your one hummingbird that you've got. You can do, kind of like what's the most good you can do with one hummingbird. teaching remotely and letting kids engage in live creative robotics is something amazing that you can do with just one Hummingbird, which is pretty cool. So something that I talked about us being able to do, and we've just got maybe 5 minutes or so before we head out for the day, before we have to end. I kind of can't believe it's been an hour already, but was to just investigate MicroBit Classroom a little bit. So I'm going to put my hand elsewhere. Takes up a lot of real estate. And I'm going to pull Jackson Pollock over here. And I thought we could, if you guys would like to join the MicroBit Classroom, any teachers who are on the call today, we'll just kind of do a real quick version of this so you can see what it looks like to do it. But if I go here, I've got this MicroBit Classroom set up, and I already see some people joining. So it looks like Mrs. Malik is here, Mike and Aaron and Regina, cool. Kelsey, the student, is there. So this is sort of the hack that we've learned, is that in order to download code that you guys create, we have to create a secret student account in an incognito window so that we can share between ourselves. But for your students to join, it's super easy to set this up. It takes 10 seconds to set up a MicroBit Classroom. You give it a title, you say make code or Python, I choose make code, and you start the thing. And so here you send your students to microbit.org/join. You give them the details. You can just put this up on your screen just like I am. You can share your screen or write it down and put it in the chat like we did. And then they enter the classroom. So now I can see what my students are up to. So Kelsey, the student, me, I am going to show you the code that I'm going to put on this Jackson Pollock right here. And we're going to go ahead and send that to you. So we're going to send you the code that I was working on, and then I'm going to download it onto this sort of robot here. Here we go. So here's my MicroBit Classroom, my super secret incognito window. So I'm going to grab my MicroBit, I'm going to plug it in, and I'm going to download this code that I just wrote onto this MicroBit so you can see how the initial code works. So we'll download it there. I'm going to select the MicroBit. Ta-da! We've got our little yellow blinking light. It takes about 5 seconds to download somebody's code onto a MicroBit. I call that the 5 seconds of panic, because it's like, oh no, it's not doing anything. It's not working. I'm not getting it. And then you get a smiley face and you're like, okay, great. Okay. So I'm going to put this on there and then turn this on and bring it into the screen here so that you can see. Ooh, that's a noise I didn't like very much. Here we go.
Would anyone like to help us troubleshoot Kelsey's code?
I wonder what's not working about my code. 1, 2, and 3. I don't know what's not working about. Oh, I know what's not working about my code. The thing that you're going to need to add that I also need to add is in the on start loop, you need a start Hummingbird block, which is in the Hummingbird blocks. So how about I go ahead and add that? Okay. Start Hummingbird needs to be in on start. I was like, guys, I thought my code was okay. Nope, it was not. There's another thing that's broken about my code too. There's a couple things that are not great. I built it real fast, which is that I need to turn my second LED on here. I need to make this LED 1 and then LED 2, and then LED 1 and then LED 2. Should have spent 30 more seconds on this. All right, so cool. We're gonna download this and put it on, oops. I'm gonna put it on the MicroBit.
No, it did not. You're not plugged in.
Oh, I think it did. Yeah. So I'm putting this on the MicroBit so you can see my, whatever the code is gonna be now. Now we'll be able to see it. All right. So my code as it's running now, I've got some tri LEDs, these right here, that are changing colors. And I've got single LEDs that are blinking on and off. And if we look at that up against the code itself, we'll bring that back up for a second. Ooh, bring that back up. You can see that the single LEDs are going 100%. LED 1, 2, and 3 are at 100%. And then if we scroll down, they're at 0%. And then tri-LED 1 is turning from green. If we scroll back up, we can see that tri-LED 1 is red. And then tri-LED 2 is going from blue to yellow plus green, which is, or red plus green, which is yellow. So that's what that looks like. But let me see if you guys have some code to try on this as well. So let's look at what Aaron's doing. Aaron, have you made any adjustments to this code? You got to start Hummingbird in there, which is the right call. But we can, anybody else? Gail's got one. What's Gail doing? Not sure if Gail's made any adjustments to theirs yet. Helen, that's me. So as you guys can see, oh no, you can't because I didn't pull it up. There we go. As you can see, I can check out and see all of the code that you guys are creating. Now, because we put Hummingbird blocks in there, they show up as gray on here. But if I were to say share Mrs. Malik's or Regina's code, I could share it with Kelsey the student. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share Eileen, Mrs. Malik's code. I'm going to not share it with anybody else, just Kelsey the student. Send it. And then when I go over back to my incognito tab, which is my student self, it says, hey, your teacher has sent you some code. Okay. So we're going to open that up. And here is Eileen's code that she wrote that I shared with Kelsey the student. And now I'll plug my MicroBit back in and I can download it. And so if you want to see some examples of using MicroBit Classroom in action, we have now done 2 webinars that have relied on this. So the 2 webinars we did this week, the Moving Masterpieces from May 12th and the Robot Petting Zoo from May 14th, both use MicroBit Classroom really heavily. So if you want to see an example of how you can teach with this system, it was really fun seeing what the kids came up with and having them interact with it. All right, so here's Eileen's code. Ooh, so pretty, Eileen. Look at this Jackson Pollock just coming to life. Beautimus. The turquoise, that green and blue is a nice BirdBrain teal. Big fan. But just, you know, since we were talking about nets blocks and Tom showed us one way to do that, wanted to cover MicroBit Classroom. And I'll say that we asked the kids this week on Tuesday, some kids who've been tuning in for a little while, they said one thing they really liked about using MicroBit Classroom to program is that they could all be working independently. They could all be working at the same time, and I could go look at their code. They could see other kids' code, because one of them saw like, hey, one of those kids used a buzzer sound in their code, and I want to make mine play happy birthday. And so they did, and it was very loud, and it was great. It was a good time. But they were like looking at each other's code and learning from that. So that is a really cool feature of MicroBit Classroom. They said they really liked that. Want to share just a couple of details here at the end for if you guys would like to join in building your own robot or joining our Zoom calls, anything like that. You can access that remote robots page. You can buy a Hummingbird. You can access our video courses and join our live classrooms, all from this birdbraintechnologies.com/robotics@home page. There's lots of cool resources that are designed and curated just for those of you who are using Hummingbird at home right now. If you have any questions about anything or any ideas, anything that you would like to see during some of our webinars, you can email us. Info@birdbraintechnologies.com. And as always, if you would help us by boosting our message and sharing what you saw and what you've done and what you want to do on social media, it would really help BirdBrain out to just boost our signal. Tag us in your Twitter posts, in your Instagram stories, in your Facebook posts and statuses, things like that. Sam learned one other thing this week that Sam learned something about bird blocks, that you can record your voice and play the recording during bird blocks, which is another coding language, which is pretty cool. So we will end our live stream for now. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us on Zoom today. This was a really robust discussion about teaching remotely. So thank you, teachers, so much, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to see what you make on social media. On Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, you can tag @BirdBrainTech or #HummingbirdKit, or you can even tag me. If you have any questions, be sure to email us, info@birdbraintechnologies.com. We can answer questions about purchasing, about learning, about teaching, and about professional development. If you haven't been there yet, be sure to visit our Robotics at Home page. There, you can purchase a kit for yourself, learn how to use it, and even join one of our upcoming webinars. Until we see you in class, thanks for watching from everyone at BirdBrain Technologies.